when you're in our store and you try on a pair, 75% chance you're going to buy it.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook presented by Power Digital. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. This is episode number 133, and my guest is Elizabeth Drori. Elizabeth is currently with Kizik, an innovative shoe company where she's helping to tell the brand story while also running the e-commerce business. She has spent time developing her career at BCG Consulting, Walmart, Converse, and Sperry. She brings with her both the creative branding side of running marketing, along with the analytical side as she manages e-commerce and performance marketing. Her early start in finance has also played a role in her success. She's a graduate of the University of Maryland, and she resides in the Boston area. It was a fun show. I love the Kizik brand and hope you'll enjoy hearing about her journey. Before we get started, a quick thank you, as always, to Max Brandstetter of the Wild Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Marketing Playbook podcast. Today, I'm joined by Elizabeth Drori. Elizabeth is Chief Marketing Officer at Kizik, the leader in hands-free footwear. She's responsible for developing and executing Kizik's global brand strategy, leading marketing efforts across all consumer touchpoints, and driving the e-commerce business. Elizabeth has a track record of guiding retail organizations and leading successful marketing efforts for global omnichannel brands. Prior to Kizik, she was Chief Marketing Officer and GM of e-commerce at Sperry, where she played a pivotal role in repositioning the brand and driving cultural relevance through partnerships and activations. Before that, she headed up marketing for Walmart's fashion business and held roles at Converse and Boston Consulting Group, where she was a senior marketing leader and consultant, respectively. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's very nice to meet you. As I said when we just got on, my wife and I are newish fans to the Kizik brand. We shop in the Short Hills Mall, and I guess we've done some online damage as well. So we've enjoyed getting to see the products that you bring to market. Hopefully, you're going to be able to give us some more details about that as we move through the show. And then, I also mentioned Go Terps. My son is a graduate of University of Maryland, and I see that you are as well.
I am. Go Terps. Terp for life.
There you go. So we get started with the show almost always. We try to get 3 key takeaways eventually throughout the show, but we also start with the first story, where you grew up and how your upbringing might have foreshadowed the career that you've developed over time.
Yes. So I grew up in the Boston area in a town called Lexington, Massachusetts, known for its role in the Revolutionary War. And it's funny, I always thought of myself as someone who didn't know exactly what they wanted to be when they grew up. And yet, if I look back, I made one of my sisters play advertising with me. And I think I made her be my secretary, and I developed campaigns for shampoo bottles or something like that. And then my job home from Maryland during, college breaks was working at the Gap. So, there was definitely some advertising and some retail in there. I just didn't recognize it until later.
And I noticed, similar to me, I got my start in finance and then ultimately, fortunately for me, moved into marketing relatively quickly. You started in finance as well.
I did. My journey was a little bit of an interesting path to marketing. I went to University of Maryland, as you said, and I was in the business school as an undergrad, and I majored in information systems. And I would say like one takeaway in terms of a piece of bad advice was what I got from my dad, who told me not to major in marketing, and that since I was really good at math, I should do something computer science related. And the worst part is that I listened to him. So I graduated and realized I had no interest in doing anything to do with computer science, but I did like math. So I thought I would try on finance for size. And I worked for a defense contractor called Raytheon and was in a finance leadership development program, which, is a great way to kickstart a career. One of the reasons why I wanted to work for them too was that they were headquartered in the Boston area and I thought they could bring me home. And the irony there is that I ended up living in California and I actually ended up living in Paris for a couple of years too. So sort of anything but brought me home. But it was a great opportunity to, start to learn what it's like to work at a company and to realize what I'm passionate about and what I'm not passionate about. And while I was sitting in Paris, which was sort of my dream city, I was realizing that what you do during the day matters. And, I sort of rediscovered my passion for consumer and retail and decided to change careers. And that's why I went to business school.
It's so interesting. I think one of the things that was really helpful for me, being in the catalog space and then in digital and performance marketing, which we'll talk about for you, having that financial acumen at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean it's so important, especially nowadays with digital marketing, to be able to have those analytical skills and assess performance and measure and do the math, frankly. So I am grateful for having that, that background and think today's marketers have to be that much more well-rounded. It's not just about creative ideas.
You had time at BCG in consulting. So you went from, I guess, business, Raytheon into consulting. How would that transition go for you?
Consulting is a great post business school move because you develop a very useful set of skills working at a consulting firm, but also they bring in people from all different backgrounds. And so they know that you're going to bring your different perspective to the cases that you work on. And then you'll be able to get, and gain different experiences too, based on where you're looking to steer your career. So I think consulting was a great segue from business school because there's a lot of similarity there in terms of understanding, a new industry, a new company, and assessing what a leader should do, and helping them with assessments, analysis, et cetera, insights in order to make that decision. So I worked at Boston Consulting Group for a couple of years. The tough part was that I worked at the time of one of our recent financial crises, so it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but I ended up moving from there to Converse, and I worked for someone who I had met at BCG. So he was also a BCGer, and it was sort of like BCG part two, but an experience where each case or project was only more interesting than the next. Like it was, growth focused and brand focused and consumer focused and international. And it was sort of everything that I had been looking for while I was at BCG, but not able to get exposure to given the economy.
If you think back to, that time at BCG and then, your 8 years or so at Converse, they weren't performance marketing roles. They weren't even, maybe not even hardcore marketing roles. They were strategic. What did you gain from that time that you think has helped you now in the role that you've got at Kizik?
I think as a leader of a company, regardless of your function, you need to think and take an enterprise perspective and think about the business holistically. So it's not just a big part of my role is leading the marketing team, and I also lead the e-commerce team, but I also need to represent the consumer and represent the brand and think about, how I can serve our priorities for growth more broadly. So I think having a bigger picture understanding of the business is really, really critical, especially being on a leadership team and supporting, your CEO and your board and where you're trying to go.
We'll talk about this perhaps in more detail on as we get closer to Kizik time. But you just made a point about overseeing marketing and e-commerce for a long time, and even still a bit today. Many companies that can support it, they have a chief marketing officer, they have a chief digital officer. Any thoughts on one person overseeing both legs in the stool?
I do have thoughts on that. I think it's really beneficial. I'm biased, but I do think it's very beneficial. Number one, because these are really important communication channels. And so when you're able to look at them and integrate them from the top of funnel to the bottom of the funnel, it's just critical to get your message out to the consumer in a consistent way. And then as you think about e-commerce, I think people treat a brand or a company's homepage like their Instagram feed. It's a place to go and to learn. And so you want that to be a strong representation of the brand. And then the final piece is that for a business that's very reliant on e-commerce as a channel, we know that a lot of the budget gets spent in performance marketing. And so to be able to influence and try to elevate and make brand right each piece of communications, again, at every moment that you're spending a dollar, is really, really important.
I could imagine, I envision you having this conversation with yourself, the marketing person and the performance marketer. And, the marketing person wants to spend top of funnel, but the performance marketing person is saying, well, geez, what kind of return on that ad spend are we going to get? How do you balance the storytelling and the top of funnel with the performance marketing metric requirements you probably have to achieve?
It's really tricky. I just was challenging our CEO, asking him, as we're thinking about planning next year, do we care more about driving brand awareness or do we care more about driving e-commerce growth? Or do we care about driving profitability? Because those are, ideally you can do all three at once, but you kind of have to have a North Star when it comes to those metrics. I think what I've been trying to do and my team has been trying to do is find those ways to make sure we're being really clear about what we're selling in our advertisements and make it feel emotional and make it close the deal. So I'll give you an example right now. I don't know when this is going to air, but we're in winter mode. And so we're selling our Juno 2 boot. I'm not sure if your wife has checked it out yet, but she might want to. It's great. And we created a campaign that's called a Winter Wonder. If anyone wants to search it on YouTube, it's on our website right now, but it shows a woman going through different scenes and stepping into these boots. And the impressive part about the boots is that you can put them on without using your hands. And we'll talk about Kizik and the proposition. But also we're showing that, you can wear them in different occasions. They're super versatile. We're showing different outfits. It hopefully feels, like our perspective on what's relevant in fashion. So it's sort of like, how do you find ways to thread the needle? It's really important for us at Kizik to lean into video because it's such a demonstrable product. So how do we find video channels that will drive performance, but whereby we can show people stepping into the shoes and communicate what it is? It's truly like a hat trick every time.
We'll get into that a little bit more, but let's just take a quick step back. After your extensive, like I like to call it, foundational experience at Converse, you moved to Walmart. Tell us about that transition.
I moved to Walmart vis-a-vis a company called shoes.com, which had been bought by Walmart via jet.com during the days of Walmart where Mark Lowry and the team at jet.com sort of revived the Walmart e-commerce business. So it was a very exciting time. I was hired by the CEO of shoes.com to help navigate truly a post-Walmart acquisition. But I quickly realized that the opportunity, and truly the focus was making Walmart.com fashion happen. And I volunteered for a role to lead marketing of new initiatives. Like we still have or they still have a Sofia Vergara denim line. We created a new line called Scoop Free Assembly. So we started building these new lines, and I said, okay, this is what I did at Converse. I can launch these new brands, put me on, coach. And the head of fashion said, great, we could use a category marketing leader. So here's the performance marketing budget, figure it out. Because it was like, go, go, go. And we were under resourced and staffed and moving quickly. And I was given a lot of trust and frankly, like thrown into the deep end. And I like to joke that I didn't watch TV for 6 months while I tried to figure out and learn how to drive, an incredibly large e-commerce business with performance marketing, which I hadn't done before. And I'm very grateful for that experience. So I think one key takeaway is throw yourself in the deep end. You'll find the raft eventually. Any opportunity that you have where you can learn on the job and, in a safe way is one that you should take. And I'm so grateful because at that point I was already a director. And I think it's harder. And marketing is challenging enough because I think we're all realizing we have to stay nimble and curious and learn because the environment changes, so quickly. But on the other hand, as you get more senior in your career, it's very hard to find opportunities where you can learn on the job from a functional standpoint. So, very grateful to have had that experience. And it was a really fun ride because it was performance marketing. And then it became more because it was about changing perception for Walmart for the fashion category, making it a credible destination for fashion. And so, there were lots of upper funnel things that we got to do too, a lot of influencer marketing, for example, that we were able to prove drove a significant return. So a lot of, amazing testing and learning. And I love that experience.
And the parade of great brands that you worked for continued. You moved on to Sperry. I definitely liked the whole shoe thing. I've spent 7 years of my career running e-commerce at Steve Madden. Prior to spending time there, you walk in a mall, you look at people's eyes. For 7 years, I looked at people's feet while I walked through the
Yes.
mall.
Yeah. Still looking at people's feet.
Yeah. So tell us about Sperry.
I was recruited to join Sperry as the chief marketing officer. It was an interesting time. It was the fall of 2020. So we were sort of crawling our way out of COVID. There was a lot of rebuild. There was rebuilding of the team there. There was rebuilding of the brand, establishing a new brand positioning that took Sperry back towards a brand that was closer to the water, let's say, and a reset of strategy from top to bottom, creative look and feel, media strategy, etc. And at the time, I didn't have e-commerce under me. We had a matrix organization where it wasn't actually managed by any of the brands. It was managed by the portfolio company. But then over time, we ingested it into the brands and I was able to manage that directly too. So it was an incredible journey over 3 years and we made a lot of progress. And at the same time, the parent company was ready to sell. So we also went through a transaction and sold Sperry to Aldo and Authentic Brands Group. So it was a bittersweet end to a really meaningful few years of my career.
Today's episode is brought to you by Power Digital, the growth partner for brands that refuse to settle. At the intersection of marketing, consulting, and data intelligence, Power Digital is where brands go to ignite revenue and scale fast. Their proprietary technology, Nova, transforms first-party data into clear, actionable insights, fueling smarter strategies, better investment decisions, and measurable growth. Power Digital's team of data scientists, creatives, and growth strategists challenge outdated marketing playbooks, delivering results that matter. If you're ready for an agency to turn your data into a competitive advantage, visit powerdigitalmarketing.com. What's your sense? You've worked in some companies that have been tried and true. They had long histories, and then you come to a business, Kizik's earlier, a different, part of the maturity cycle. Easier, more difficult, one or the other, or just different?
Just different. When I was moving on from Sperry, I thought to myself, okay, I gotta do something different than shoes. As much as I as much as I love them, my shoe closet is pretty full. And then I came across Kizik and I was like, ooh, this is so different. This is such a different challenge for my brain because Sperry was a heritage brand, Walmart was about changing perception, Converse was a heritage brand, and Kizik was like, what's Kizik? I'll tell you what, not a lot of people know what it is, which is part of the challenge. But it didn't feel like another shoe company. It felt like a tech startup that was making shoes. And so the challenge was multifold. It was how do you take this amazing upstart with incredible entrepreneurial spirit and talent and transform it into an omni-channel brand? And how do you market a shoe with 200 patents and incredible technology in a category that is self-defining? And now there are other players in it, but you have to do a lot of education also. It's not just about what you wear, what your vibe is, or what you like to do. It's a truly different kind of product proposition. So it's been really exciting and challenging in many different ways.
We've established Kizik is a shoe brand. Let's talk, just lay the land for everybody. The channels that you play in. You have how many stores?
We have 6 stores and we have a very large e-commerce business. So I would say it really grew up as a digital native. We started to roll out with different wholesale partners So we launched with DSW earlier this year. We're launching at Nordstrom next year. We're sort of relaunching there. So we're making our way into wholesale. We're in a lot of amazing independents as well. And then we are expanding internationally as well. So this spring was our first season. And we've got, business up and running from Japan to Kuwait to Canada, everywhere in between. So that's been really, really exciting. It's been fun to watch the brand expand, and it's also been hard, and has taken some different processes and different tools to do that.
Amazon business?
Oh, Amazon business. Yeah. We've been on Amazon for a little while, and that's pretty significant for us too.
All right. And as you think about, telling the story, you talked about it being a tech startup. Let's dig into that just a bit. When you are talking to the customer, I'm imagining you're showing them style, then you're also showing them product innovation. Maybe dig in on the product innovation. What makes it different than your typical shoe?
Yes. So Kizik is the original and leading hands-free shoe brand. So hands-free is enabled by technology that is most often in the heel of the shoe. And Kizik offers hands-free labs technology that's dynamic. So it is able to spring back and rebound, and it stays on your foot. So it's not just smushing your foot into something that, might not come back. We call that heel crushing. This is, you put your foot in the shoe, and not only does it come back, bounce back and stay on your foot, but it makes like a pop sound. So we call it the aha experience, or the aha moment. Like, you put your foot in and you hear it. It's very sensory seeking. Like, you hear it, you feel it, and it's fun. And it's obviously, very empowering for people who have mobility issues, but it's really just amazingly convenient for everyone else. And so the Kizik team had been on a journey to really educate people on, why these shoes are so different. It's been interesting to watch over a couple of years. We've had, some bigger competitors come in and also sort of piggyback on that education. But Kizik has really the best technology, and it's the best experience. And so, that's how we sell ourselves. We call it the ultimate hands-free experience. You have to try them on. I mean, that this is sort of the catch, and it's amazing that we've grown digitally, and that's why we lean into video. But what we learned in our own retail, and maybe I love hearing that you shop at the Short Hills Mall store, is that when you're in our store and you try on a pair, 75% chance you're going to buy it, because the experience is that incredible. So we've been trying to seek ways to get people to try on the shoe, because if we do that, then we know that we'll win them over.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask you, if you said out of one breath, you got to try it on, but you're a heavily, digitally focused brand. So I'm not going to ask you for specific numbers, but in the shoe space, and I was always surprised, you would think shoes, high return rate. In my days at Madden, we had a much lower return rate than I ever would have expected we were going to have for a fashion business. But is that part of a challenge in a business like yours where you kind of have to try it on?
No, it doesn't feel like it's the challenge, because I think, I mean, I think if we get returns, it might be size, and we'll try to get someone to do an exchange in that sense. But that's the worry, because we're so new, is just to get them to make that first purchase. And then, once we do, we have an extremely loyal customer base, because people who, wear them, love them, or try them on, buy them, and then those who wear them love them. So it's really about getting that first person in the door or on the site.
You mentioned before about some videos you're doing. Is there a particular campaign that you've worked on since you're there that you just sit there and say, "This is a home run. We just hit it out of the ballpark"?
Ooh, the last few campaigns that we shot feel really good and really strong. And they sort of have a different level of brand emotion all the way to more product focused, but I'll highlight them quickly. One that's more brand endemic, we call it a hands-free tale. And it's a story about someone who comes to a friend's barbecue, they leave the gate open, and the dog at the house runs out of the gate. And so then everybody in the whole neighborhood is like stepping into their shoes and running out onto the street to catch this dog. I'm not even a dog person, I have to say, but I watch it and the dog, it just makes me smile. And I think as marketers, to put out a piece of content that makes people feel happy is a real win. Like I think it's like a scientifically proven win. And it sells the product proposition because, we're constantly thinking about in our storytelling and our ads, like what are the different use cases? Why would you want shoes that you can put on really quickly? And chasing after a dog is a big one. So that one was really fun, and it mostly ran in TV, and it was mostly more a brand spot, although it featured one product, which was the Athens 2. We recently were in boot mode, so we just came out with a new waterproof hiking boot. And, our company is headquartered in Utah and we do outdoors really, really well. And we created this beautiful campaign that again is a story of a girl and a guy and they're getting out of their tent, which is another use case of like you need to step, it's a great thing to be able to step into your shoe very easily. And then because it's waterproof, we show them splashing. So that one gets a little bit more into the product. And then this last one that I mentioned around our Juno 2 winter boot, we just are trying to hammer home, look at what you can do. Like, can your boots do this? Can you step into a pair of tall boots? I mean, women complain all the time about getting boots over their calves and, you have to deal with the zipper, you have to deal with laces. Like, you just step these on and it's a true wow sensation. So I think and I think that's a good sign. The last 3 campaigns we did. So I think we're making a lot of progress. We're feeling good about what we're putting out there.
Do you sell kids?
We do sell kids. It is an opportunity for us for sure. We're underpenetrated relative to the market. And it is a little bit of a wonder why, because it's such a great proposition for kids. Like my 10-year-old, I don't think will ever learn how to tie a pair of shoes now. And I mean, he promotes Kizik to everyone. Like I will never wear anything else, and you think about, big kids also that put on their shoes without untying them because they're late, they don't want to.
Lazy.
So
Yeah, they're lazy. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I think I'm excited. We have a bigger offering for back to school next year. So hopefully it'll continue to be a bigger part of our business because it is a wild opportunity.
As you were talking, I was thinking, I have a 1-year-old granddaughter who's just getting into shoes, and I could totally see my daughter getting Kiziks and just making it easy for the baby to ultimately get in the shoe. So I could see that working. You talked about different aspects of marketing. Maybe you can walk us through. You mentioned a little bit about TV for some of these ads. What kind of TV are you playing in?
We are doing both linear and CTV. And we do a lot of remnant buying, which basically turns TV into an amazingly efficient channel, given at least where I believed it to sit in the funnel previously. And my team is pretty sophisticated about measuring performance in terms of how many people are coming to the site, in a certain time frame of the TV ad running. So we look at it in lots of different ways. But we've been able to get efficient buys by working with an agency that does specific remnant inventory buying.
Okay, that's good. And you mentioned measurement. Obviously, one of the challenges for marketers is to know the dollars that you're spending. Where is the traffic coming from? How are you guys thinking about measurement across the entire funnel?
Our number one source of truth is an MMM, and we use Northbeam. They've been a great partner to us, so shout out to those folks. And we look at it not just as a one-off, like after the fact measurement, but we use it all the time, day in and day out, to be able to look at and compare these channels, outside of platform data to see not only where we have headroom but which channels are driving more omni-channel impact. I think that's one of the best uses of MMM as well because it can ingest sales data from all channels. So we have Amazon, more at the ready. So we'll use that as a proxy for, which channels are productive at driving our business, not just in our own e-commerce site.
One of the things that is interesting when I talk to folks that listen to the podcast, they're always interested in hearing from leaders about how they manage their teams, how they create bench strength, how they deal with people that perhaps are not performing at the level that you would like them to perform. What's kind of your philosophy about the management of your team?
I take it very seriously. And I think it's really important to have a high performing team and to have a team that feels really good and happy to be working for the brand. I think we're very fortunate to be doing what we do. It's super fun. And and it can be hard and it can take a lot out of you at the same time, but you want to be able to enjoy it. And I always want my team to feel, good about their day to day and working well together. And so I would say early on in my career, I'd say one of the quick mistakes I made when I was at Walmart was hiring someone who wasn't right for the job. And one of the quick learnings I had to make was letting her go. And my manager at the time said to me, Elizabeth, you need a high performing team. And it rings in my ears. It was such a good piece of advice. And it is one of my least favorite parts of being a leader to have to make decisions to let people go. It's not fun for anyone, but it's really important because you have to have the right players, you have to have the right capabilities, you have to have the right skill sets. So sometimes that means, and I had to do it at Kizik to restructure in order to have the right, people and roles on the team. And then you also have to make sure that you're working in a super healthy way. So at Kizik, it took a lot of deliberate and thoughtful work to actually make the team gel because we had, legacy employees, we had new people, we had people at headquarters, we had people who were remote. And so we actually took the time and got a coach to define what is important to us as a team, what drives us, what are our non-negotiables, collaboration, respect, trust, and how do we instill that in the team? And how do we get the leadership team working well so that everyone else follows? That's been, and it's still a work in progress, but it's so incredibly important, the work to do. And there's a very big payoff for it too.
Most leaders have a roadmap of items that are far longer than what they can probably, get executed. I'm sure you've got lots of things on your roadmap. How do you become discerning to decide what's going to get done and what's not going to get done?
Oh, well, I think being the strategist that I am, I think it always comes back to what are we trying to achieve and what are the priorities that need to be in place to make it happen. I think what's tricky about footwear or probably other consumer products that have a long life cycle to them is that you're working across multiple seasons. So, my team is focused on getting through holiday with excellence, as well as shooting for spring of next year, as well as preparing for a sales meeting for fall of 2026 and then starting to think about spring 2027. So that's hard, and especially when you're lean, you have the same people doing all the things. And so, I think it takes everyone is sort of accountable to managing their own workload, but then it takes a lot of checks and balances too to say, are we spending our time on the right things? And or is this thing that I want to do, is it on strategy? Is it going to move the needle?
We can't have a conversation in October of 2025 without talking about artificial intelligence. How are you thinking about what kind of a role it will have in your business?
I don't know anything that's unique to my business. I think, it's something that we're talking about all the time. I think it's already happening in the world of digital marketing with algorithms and, media partners saying, just give us the money, don't worry about it. We'll find the people for you, right? I think it's spurring a lot of conversations around the importance of creative in order to reach the right audience. And so how do you do that? And then can you leverage AI to build your creative? So we're thinking about it and working it into lots of different things. And in some cases, we've explored what if we use AI to create this video campaign that we want to do, and then we realize, wait a second, it's actually better just to shoot it ourselves. So we've gone back and forth a little bit. I think we just, we all have to stay on our toes with this one. One thing that's top of mind for us is just the AEO, the fact that now you can get product recommendations from ChatGPT, and it's becoming a little bit of the new search. And so making sure that we're staying ahead of that and getting visible on those engines because we want to be wherever consumers are imagining up what choose to buy or how we can fulfill a need.
Thanks. This was really interesting. We're down to the end of the show, and we do a 2-minute drill, 7 questions, 1 word answer. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. A brand that you admire or that inspires you.
Liquid Death.
Okay. Favorite app on your phone.
Ways.
Last website other than Amazon that you shopped from.
Kizik.com. That's Kizik.
Okay. Shameless plug, but you
Yeah,
deserve
shameless
it.
plug. Shameless
All
plug.
right. Something that you're not good at, but wish that you were.
Sleeping on airplanes.
A charitable organization that you're passionate about.
Tank proof.
If you had one superpower, what would it be?
It's also going to be plane related, which is flying at lightning speed, flying very quickly to wherever I need to go.
Because you can't sleep on the plane.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than family, what's your most prized possession?
My Moroccan tea set.
Okay. Where can
Hmm.
people reach out to you on social media, Elizabeth?
LinkedIn.
Okay, great. Hey, this was really fun. Thank you very much. I loved learning about the brand. I've done a lot of reading about it since I first saw the business. We'll get over to the Short Hills Mall and see what's on tap for fall. And I already made a note. I got to tell my wife about the Juno boot that you mentioned. I'm sure she will be right on top of that.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. This was
All
fun.
right. Good luck for a good holiday season.
You too.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Elizabeth Drori for coming on the Marketing Playbook. To me, today's three game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number one, don't be afraid to throw yourself into the deep end. That's a great quote from Elizabeth. This was in reference to being offered a role and accepting it when both sides realize that while you might not be 100% ready for the role, if you're smart and willing to work hard, it can work out for everyone. Any opportunity that you get to learn and broaden your skills is one worth taking. And number two, being a good leader requires you to take an enterprise perspective. While you might be the marketing person, you need to realize that you're representing your brand and your customers, and you're there to support the rest of the leadership in the business. Make sure you're relying on the company-wide priorities, which will in turn help you determine your own team's priorities and goals. And number three, most brands that are digitally focused are employing a full funnel strategy, but often they downplay top of funnel awareness building tactics because they're harder to measure. In the case of Kizik, they're not just a shoe brand. They've innovated a product that tells a great story through video. I love what Elizabeth mentioned about the videos that they've produced, leaning into showing where customers doing things that need to be fast, like chasing after your dog. So as you're planning for 2026, make sure that top of funnel has a place in your budget. Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, the devil is in the details.